founder of psychosexual analysis, or psychoanalysis, but like that's one of his dealies. He was born in Austria, and he started off as a neuroscientist, and he studied the effects of cocaine on the brain. And so he was doing that, and he actually found some benefits when it came to eye disease, but also like people were dying, and his partner got addicted to coke, so he like ruined his reputation as a doctor. And so then he needed something else to do, and this dude was like, yo, you gotta come to this insane asylum and look at these crazies. And then he kind of got into human behavior, much like B.F. Skinner also studied like people's behavior and like organisms. Freud did similar things because he found different ways to deal with mental illness and like talking about ways the brain works. And so his works, he wrote a bunch, but I'm only talking about a few today. The ego and the id are like his main ideas, and kind of everything ties back into the ego and the id. And 3 essays on theory. 3 essays on the theory of sexuality. He did a lot of study of dreams, so we're going to talk about the interpretation of dreams. That's not a D. We're also talking about beyond the pleasure principle and jokes and their relation to the unconscious. I probably should have written this first, but I didn't think that far ahead.
You're gonna have to read that again, but take your time doing it.
What did you say? Take up
Read
more
the
time
line.
and reach the 20-minute mark?
Yeah?
I just got
Yeah.
beyond the pleasure principle.
The pleasure principle or principle what?
Beyond the
Yes.
pleasure principle.
Thank you.
What's the last one?
Jokes and their relation to the unconscious. Writing in chalk makes me feel so powerful. Okay, so the ego and the id are like his main thing, and it's basically so there are 2 kind of parts of your brain that control you. There's the super ego and the id. And the id you kind of get from birth. It's the primal instincts that make you act on impulsive decisions, and that's where his pleasure principle kind of comes from. And the pleasure principle is defined as every desire that must be acted upon immediately. And yeah, and then the superego is kind of split into 2 parts of the conscience and the ideal self on the conscience will punish you by feeling guilty for doing anything bad, and the ideal self is kind of who you aspire to be and societal expectations, and like if you satisfy this, you will experience pride. And both of these things are kind of like the angel and devil on your shoulder in a kind of way. So this is the devil.
So it's conscience, and then what's the one below it?
Ideal self.
Thank you.
And then they all connect to the ego, which is sort of the blend of the 2 that mixes idealized and realistic ideas and mediates them and works through reason, but it is not quite as strong as the id, and that's why people make bad decisions. If any of you know mine, please do not state them out loud. And yeah, this applies to all his theories. And yeah, I will pause the video if you need to. While I moment. Also, in relation to like the unconscious mind, like the subconscious stuff, he had a little iceberg demonstration, kind of, and basically your brain was split up to the conscious, the subconscious and preconscious, and the unconscious part of your mind. And basically, like, trauma is kind of the unconscious part that's like under the surface of the water. It affects like everything you do, however you cannot like readily access it. And then like the conscious is the little part that's above water, and it's what you think about in your day-to-day life. And the preconscious or subconscious is like memories that are like triggered by certain things. If someone's like, hey, remember that one time in kindergarten when you pooped your pants? And you're like, oh yeah, I did poop my pants. And that's the preconscious. I mean, I can repeat that if you need it. So okay. And then this also relates to the ego, superego, and id, because Freud believed that the ego was purely conscious, the id was purely unconscious, and then the superego was the only one that occupied both. Does that make sense? Everyone good? Okay. And he also did a lot of dream interpretation and how these all apply. And he basically said that dreams are your repressed wishes. And there are 3 different elements to dreams. Your sensory impressions, like during the night, the residues of the day before, and the drives of your id, like your innermost desires. And that's kind of how you have certain dreams. And yeah. And so along with the jokes thing, I just thought it was a fun fact. It wasn't like a major theory of his, but he thought the jokes were controlled by the superego, and because you get like gratification from being funny. And if you have like an aggressive superego, it manifests in like darker humor and edgy, like sarcastic, sardonic stuff. And then like if you have kind of a weaker superego, you have a little like, just like knock jokes. I don't know. So I'm gonna tell 2 jokes. You're gonna tell me which one has the more aggressive superego. So joke number 1 is, how do you make a taco stand? You take away its chair. And joke number 2 is that everyone's so woke nowadays. They have so many labels for anything. It's like we're playing Mad Libs. A person who's super woke, a guy who's super woke would say that I am a male attracted male trans experience, but any other guy would say, get the hell out of my bathroom. Okay, now which one is the more aggressive superego? Yes, it's always the second one. Go Nora, bonus points. Sure, I don't know, I'm the teacher. And now we're talking about sex, and we're to a bunch of AP students, so I doubt you guys know much about that. But I'm expecting you to smile and nod along as if you understand. Sadly, 5 psychosexual stages of human development. The first stage is oral, and it's in your baby. That's okay. That didn't happen. It happens when you're like a baby from like ages 0 to 1, and that's because you have your id from birth, and you're trying to satisfy that id, and what it wants is to suck. Yeah, I mean, it's so you get gratification from suckling on your mother's bosom. That's it. I should probably say 0 to 1. The next stage is anal. You get so much gratification from anal pleasures, aka pooping. And that's why potty training is so hard, because like infants do not stop laughing. Infants do not want to control over where and when they can poop. And that sticks with me to this day. But like, yeah. This is ages 1 to 3, and this is also when the ego starts to develop and they become more like aware of themselves, sort of. And then the next stage, everyone's favorite, phallic. Cue phallus. This is when you are aware of the differences between guys and girls, and you realize you have genitals.
How do you spell that?
Phallic.
LL, that's what I was tripping up.
This is ages 3 to 6. It's when you discover masturbation. It also ties into the Oedipus and Electra complex, which we will get to later. I'll draw a little star there. And then the next stage is latent.
How do you masturbate when you're 6?
Ask Freud. He was a weird dude.
I was thinking.
I'm just thinking, like, I don't think the plumbing works yet.
Yeah, it really shouldn't, and you should probably get that checked out if it. Latent is the stage that we're all in currently. It's kind of like your adolescent teenage years because you have stuff to do besides masturbate, surprisingly. It's when you're kind of developing your personality and you're going to school, you're having hobbies, you're going to work, so like you're not really caring about your sexual development, shockingly. And then our last stage,
What age
I didn't have specific years, but like 6 to like your teenage years, basically.
Puberty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. Genital is the final stage, and it's from like puberty to your adulthood. It's when you are kind of realizing what pleasures you need, and those pleasures are heterosexual sex. You're like, I need to get stuff done, and it turns out other people can do that instead of just myself. So those are the 5 psychosexual stages of human development. Yeah, cool. And you can also develop fixations on certain stages, and that kind of will determine if it's harder for you to break out of a certain phase, like if you breastfeed for too long, or if you have a binky for a really long time, or if it takes you a while to get potty trained or whatever. Freud believed that like led to different personality traits almost. And like, so if you're stuck in the oral stage for too long, you can become aggressive, or anal stage for too long can result in like obsessiveness, like always wanting to be tidy or being really kind. And then like the phallic stage, if you're stuck in it, can result in vanity, self-obsession, anxiety, and stuff like that. And don't make any jokes about how I'm still in my phallic stage. I don't want to talk about it. And yeah, so the phallic stage is really special because that's where you get the Oedipus and Electra complexes. So Freud believed that basically every guy, like this is kind of the phase when you realize, oh, hey, I'm a dude, or hey, I'm a chick. So guys kind of want to take after their fathers during this stage, and it is because they're attracted to their moms, and they want to bone their moms. That's the point here. Basically, they take after their father, and they see him as direct competition. And so that's why they're trying to develop his more masculine traits, because they want their mom, and they develop castration anxiety during this phase. It's just, they don't want their penis to be removed. And yeah, because everybody thinks with different parts of them. Sarah, what organs do people think with?
Brain.
No, penis, you idiot. It's always the penis if we're talking about Freud. And so yeah, and during this phase, the girls also develop the Electra complex, where it's basically the same thing, where they desire their fathers, and but they realize they'll never be enough, because guess what they don't have? Penises. And so then they...
What's that called?
Electra complex.
Penis.
And they develop penis envy and become like depressed, because they'll never be good enough because they're not men. I know that's not #woke by today's standards, but this is Freud, so whatever.
This all happens to vary from 3 to 6.
Yes, it does. And so yeah, so the girls will take after their mothers and become more demure and take on the more feminine tasks, because they know they'll never be good enough and they'll be a big strong man. And yeah, he also talked about, well, this is just a fun fact that I liked. He believed that all humans have like a male and female side to them, and each side is like heterosexual. So technically everyone's bisexual from birth, but people will typically repress one side. Like my heterosexual friend Aiden here. So he was born, and he repressed the female side, so he has the straight male always
Oh.
activated. It's always on point.
Definitely.
So yeah. Any questions? You want me to point to the penis again? I feel like that's just. We good? Oh man.
So when you say dreams are repressed wishes, does that include like nightmares?
Yeah. Well, also it's a combination of things that happened like the day before, and also the stimulus, like in your bedroom. So maybe if there's some creepy wind going on, that could result in a nightmare. But yeah. Anything else? Okay.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first, I'm going to not vouch for this electro complex or this, but these stages, I kind of can vouch for watching my kids. I'll make that observation first. It's okay, they don't care for easy.
Are they in the 3 to 6?
The oral stage, they didn't go through the whole binky thing, and I think that they came out a little more well adjusted for that. They weren't as needy. The anal stage, they both hid in the same corner of the living room to poop.
I do that now.
Right. They were like, awkward about it. And the phallic, man, if I showed affection toward my wife when they were that age, they would come over and rip me by the hair and just take her away. Like, I couldn't have her. So, those things seem interesting. So, you mentioned that in each stage, there are things that can go wrong, correct?
Yes.
And these things later on become like neuroses
Mm-hmm.
in our regular lives?
Yes.
Okay, so my first question is, how can I shape, if I get stuck in the oral phase, can I get out of it when I'm an adult?
Well, yeah, I don't think so, actually.
No, you're stuck forever.
Yeah.
You're stuck forever, and that any mental issues that you have or fixations are because of that stage.
I mean, if you're eventually like weaned off as a youth, you can get off of it, but like not as an adult.
Right. So as an adult, let's say that I am obsessively clean, so I'm anal about things. How do I fix it if I can't do the anal phase?
I don't know, die.
Do you remember you mentioned the word psychotherapy? You want to just remind us what that is?
Oh, well, it's basically how he would treat mental illness by studying human behavior, kind of.
By doing what?
Well, here, just talk to them and study their brains.
Just talk to them. So the idea of the therapist, you on the couch and the therapist asking you questions, have you ever been in therapy for any reason? This is all Freud. I feel like I should ask more about the sex stuff. Just to line up for Friday.
Oh my god, it is funny.
I want Jackson to do another lecture.
Yeah.
Do you want me to draw another penis?
Wait,
Oh,
so does homosexuality just not exist in Freud?
no, it does, but it means like, okay, so in a weird alternate universe where Aiden was gay.
Unheard of.
Yeah, basically he would have repressed the male side of him and have a more like feminine personality, and then the queen on the inside, she's just attracted to men, so he's perceived by society as gay, but technically it's just desires heterosexual sex, because everyone loves heterosexual sex.
So then when he's in the phallic stage, would he have the extra complex instead, just minus the penis envy?
I think he still would have the Oedipus complex, just because your sexuality isn't as
I'm not
developed
a
at
woman,
that age.
Sarah.
Yeah, I was gonna agree. So would then this crazy thing you're talking about homosexuality be maybe one of the issues that could come up in one of these stages as part of Freud? Like maybe one of those is developed, probably the phallic stage, I would guess.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. I didn't say he was always right. He used to give coke to his nieces and nephews for Christmas gifts.
He's my kind of man. I wish he was my uncle.
Alright. Anything else for Jack? Let's give him a round.
Yay!
I'm leaving this here.
How do you feel?